Today we are going to discuss how much money Apex Legends generates. As part of this analysis, we will also estimate the player base size and revenue per user per month. Looking at the data, my conclusion is that the future for Apex Legends users and content creators is bright. I'm feeling very good about both of these groups after looking at the hard data. According to EA, Apex Legends is expected to generate over $500 million in bookings for the fiscal 2021 period, which for EA is April 2020 to March 2021. I'm going to be using the terms bookings and revenues interchangeably here since I don't think the distinction is important for the purposes of this discussion. This is a very good number, not because it is a large number, which it is, but because of the growth rate attached to it. It is accelerating, not decelerating. From listening to EA's earnings calls, it's clear that EA's management is bullish on Apex Legends in the long run. For EA, Apex Legends could be like the next The Sims, which is an IP that is still generating hundreds of millions of dollars per year after 20 years. It's going to be fascinating to see the evolution of Apex Legends over the next 10 to 20 years, we all hope. One logical reason EA should be bullish on Apex Legends is that it is launching on Switch and mobile this year, so the addressable market for Apex is going to be increasing quite a bit in the next few months. I was a Wall Street sell-side analyst, so I do have a sense of when a management team feels optimistic about the future. One tell is that they reveal information they don't necessarily have to, and that is what EA is doing, which I'll discuss. Wall Street investment banks pay close attention to Apex Legends, but have pretty conservative revenue forecasts. This means that EA could have some earnings upside. When comparing Apex to the top battle royale game, Fortnite, Apex's user base and monetization trends look favorable. The stock price of EA is literally driven by Apex Legends to a large extent, because it's the part of their earnings forecast that has among the most uncertainty and potential upside. There is the predictable part of EA, which sophisticated investors understand, and there is the unpredictable part of EA, which sophisticated investors are doing deep research on as we speak. The overall growth rate for the company is about 13%, but live services are growing 25%. So full game sales are actually on the decline for EA. Full game sales are sales from full game downloads and physical sales. That is represented by the green bars on the chart. Live services include downloadable content for full games, hosted games like Apex Legends, and mobile games. As you can see clearly, the green bar that represents the traditional game publishing model shrank year over year for both revenues and bookings. According to EA's third quarter 2021 earnings call on February 2nd, Apex is expected to generate over $500 million in bookings for the trailing 12-month period ending March 31st, 2021. Wall Street analysts placed the number at about $550 million. Which means for calendar year 2020, Apex generated around $500 million in sales, give or take. Initially, EA's management only forecasted revenues for Apex of about $350 million for this year, which would have represented a moderate growth rate. If you analyze this graph they released, Apex's revenues are growing well over 50% year over year, which is excellent. At this rate, Apex is going to be an annual billion-dollar game for EA. To put this in perspective, when a major movie generates over $1 billion in sales from all sources in its first year of release, it's considered a major blockbuster. The majority of movie revenues are generated in the first year. Apex is going to be doing that annually. The production and marketing budgets of major movies are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, so just imagine how great Apex would be with that type of budget each year. A major concern for Wall Street is that EA might be underinvesting in Apex since they are constrained on resources. Let's hope EA goes all in on Apex, which would be great for players and content creators. On its earnings call, the CEO said Apex's user growth was 30%. This implies that revenue per user increased about 20% or higher, given that revenues grew over 50%. So Apex is growing its user base and becoming better at monetizing that user base with better engagement, content, and opportunities to monetize. On its earnings call, the CEO and CFO mentioned Apex 27 times. They noted that the four key drivers of growth for Apex Legends over the next year and a half are the launch on the Nintendo Switch in March 2021, the launch on mobile devices by March 2022, the expected launch in China by 2022, and the recent launch of Apex on Steam. If you look at the Twitch data, it does look like the launch on Steam had a positive impact. The launch on Nintendo Switch should have an order of magnitude larger impact on Apex, and the launch on mobile could be an order of magnitude above that. There are 80 million Nintendo Switch consoles worldwide, and that number is going to pass 100 million soon, so the launch on the Switch increases the addressable market for Apex by over 30%. And the biggest platforms Apex has yet to launch on are, of course, Android and iOS. The Nintendo Switch is about as powerful as a tablet or smartphone released in the last 4 years, so the success on the Switch is going to be an important indicator of how Apex can perform on iOS and Android, both graphically and in terms of user base. Given that Switch uses a pretty old NVIDIA mobile chipset designed for an Android tablet, I think porting Apex to Android from Switch is going to be pretty easy for Respawn. In this chart, I'm showing the peak G-flops of several platforms. As you can see, the Switch is pretty weak graphically compared to a phone released in 2019, the Galaxy S10. It is easier to develop games for the Switch since there isn't as much operating system fragmentation, so Respawn can optimize the code better for Switch than it can for Android and iOS. But even after factoring in better optimization, modern phones are going to be able to run Apex Legends well if it can run well on Switch. Mobile devices are becoming more powerful each year. New phones are rivaling the base Xbox One in terms of graphics power. The smartphone market is an order of magnitude larger than the PC and console markets put together. There are a few Battle Royale games on mobile like Fortnite and PlayerUnknown. It is shocking how much revenues Fortnite and PlayerUnknown generate on mobile. According to recent reports, PlayerUnknown generated about $4.3 billion in sales on mobile devices alone. Apex hasn't even generated $1 billion on all platforms put together yet. PlayerUnknown launched in 2017, so even after its steep decline, the game has averaged over $1 billion in sales per year from just iOS and Android. If Apex can launch successfully on mobile, it would be an absolute game changer because it would mean that EA and Respawn can massively increase the development resources for Apex Legends on all platforms. On console, Fortnite and PlayerUnknown use around the same graphics resources as Apex, give or take, so if those games can transition to mobile, then I don't see why Apex can either. Apex released a trailer for the Switch recently and the graphics look good. The FPS is probably only around 30, but that is good enough for mobile, I think. As a side note, Nintendo is breaking sales records with a console that has the graphics power of an Android tablet released 4 years ago at a $300 price point in 2021. This demonstrates very well that software and games are more important than hardware. The media is widely reporting that the Switch can do 1 teraflop, which is actually way off when using the standard way of measuring a teraflop. I got this wrong myself in a previous video as well. On EA's recent earnings call, the very first question by analysts was on Apex Legends. In general, Wall Street analysts are using conservative revenue estimates for Apex Legends. They are only forecasting about 10% growth for the next year, even though Apex grew sales by over 50% for the last year. What this means is that the source of earnings upside for EA, and therefore its stock price, is Apex Legends to a significant extent. The investment community is very interested in the success of Apex Legends, and let's hope EA makes content investments accordingly. So we know that Apex's user base increased 30% over the last year. This comes straight from the CEO of EA. As you saw from the saga of Elon Musk versus the SEC, the CEO of a publicly traded company can get into hot water if he embellishes any information that can move a stock price. So this 30% figure is probably daily, weekly, or monthly active users, so anyone who has played the game at least once in that time period. We don't know how this number was calculated, but from looking at the data, I think I might actually downplay the growth rate. So here I'm graphing the trailing 3-month moving average for Twitch viewership, going to January 2021. So over the last 3 months, Apex averaged about 50,000 viewers at any given moment. Fortnite averaged about 136,000. So Apex's revenues grew over 50%, its user base increased 30%, and its monetization rate increased around 20%. but its Twitch viewership increased 195% as of January 2021. The trailing 9-month average increased a more modest 80%. So what does this all tell us? Twitch viewership is accelerating, so Apex's user base growth is probably accelerating as well. My guess is that Twitch is a leading indicator of user engagement for a game, not a trailing indicator or coincident factor. So I think when viewership spikes on Twitch, that means that players for a game increase at a later time. My reasoning for this is that the people who watch Twitch are the core dedicated gamers, the early adopters. The casual gamers then follow later after the early adopters. Some of the other interesting points from this graph are that Fortnite is about 3 times the size of Apex in terms of Twitch viewership and is growing Twitch viewership quickly, but not nearly as quickly as Apex. Apex's growth rate is 3 times as high as that of Fortnite. Jan to Jan, Fortnite grew viewership 65%, but for the entire year, Fortnite's Twitch viewership was actually flat versus 2019. Even though Twitch viewership isn't a perfect indicator of user base size and engagement, it is still an important metric. The CEO of EA mentioned the viewership trends in its games, including Apex specifically, a few times on its earnings call. Given that Twitch is by far the largest platform for game viewership, the CEO of EA was effectively pointing investors to the Twitch viewership data to get a sense of user base and revenue performance of Apex. One of the next big ideas for stock investors is esports, so EA wants investors to think of EA as a good way to play this investment thesis, and Twitch is intimately intertwined with esports. Esports doesn't exist without platforms like Twitch, so this is another reason that the CEO of EA wants to bring viewership trends into the conversation with investors. When looking at the bigger picture, it actually seems that Fortnite may have hit its all-time peak on Twitch. Apex's growth trend has been more stable than Fortnite's. Fortnite's graph has some extra volatility because of big Fortnite content creators like Ninja leaving Twitch and then coming back, but now Ninja and a lot of other big Fortnite content creators are playing other games. Back in early 2020, Fortnite was averaging about 80,000 viewers. Looking at the updated Twitch viewership data, for February, Apex is now averaging close to that number. More people watch Fortnite because more people play Fortnite because more people can play Fortnite. The addressable market in mobile dwarfs the console and PC markets. Not 2x, it's more like 10x. Once Apex is on mobile, I expect Apex to cross the 100,000 threshold on Twitch. So Apex Legends content creators on YouTube and Twitch are going to experience strong growth over the next 2 years because of the launch on Switch and mobile, in my opinion. Right now, the best estimate from using Twitch viewership data is that Fortnite has about 3 times as many daily active users as Apex. However, given that Fortnite is more international than Apex, but Twitch is disproportionately popular in the US and Europe, the user base differential between Apex and Fortnite might be greater than 3x. The best estimate we have for Fortnite revenues comes from Nielsen's SuperData service. In 2019, it reported that Epic Games, which is backed by Chinese giant Tencent, generated $1.8 billion in sales from Fortnite. This is a huge haul, but was down from $2.4 billion from the prior year. The revenues are on the right axis in the chart. Epic has bashed SuperData publicly, so maybe Fortnite revenues didn't decline by 25% in 2019. In 2020, if Fortnite sales went up, they probably didn't go up by much because Fortnite's Twitch viewership has been flat when looking at the average for the entire year, and Fortnite has been off the iOS and Google Play platforms since the third quarter of 2020. Although any Android user can easily play Fortnite by sideloading the app outside of the Google Play Store. The cleanest number we probably have is from 2019. Fortnite averaged 120,000 Twitch viewers in 2019, so this means total revenue per Twitch viewer was about 1,250 according to the SuperData data. This is on a per month basis. Apex averaged 36,500 viewers in 2020 for the full year and generated around 500 million. So that comes out to 1,140 per Twitch viewer. For Apex, those are two reliable numbers. The viewership data is publicly known, and the $500 million revenue number was publicly revealed recently. So strangely, the Fortnite monetization in 2019 was about at the same level as Apex in 2020 according to this data, only 9% higher. But my initial hypothesis was that Fortnite monetized better than Apex by like 2 times. So what's going on here? I think what is happening is that Fortnite probably does monetize better than Apex, although not at my 2x initial assumption anymore. Also, Fortnite's user base is more international because of China, and thus a smaller percentage of Fortnite's user base watches Twitch, since Twitch isn't as popular internationally and is banned in China. So I'm in the camp that doubts the super data revenue figures from 2019. I think the Fortnite revenue numbers are higher than the $1.8 billion estimate from super data. If the super data estimate is correct, this would mean that after you factor in China and many other foreign countries that don't watch Twitch that much, Fortnite's revenue per viewer or potential viewer could be lower than Apex's. This doesn't make sense because Fortnite has much more frequent content drops from its developers. Epic Games stated that monthly active users in August 2018 was 78 million. Unfortunately, they haven't updated this number. This is around the time they hit their peak on Twitch, so if you keep the ratio of monthly active users to average Twitch viewers constant, this implies that currently there are about 60 million monthly active users of Fortnite and 22 million for Apex Legends. Twitch viewership for Fortnite has declined, so it makes sense to assume there are fewer active players now, and Fortnite is more popular on Twitch than Apex, so it makes sense for Apex to have a smaller user base. In mid-2020, EA stated that Apex had 8 to 10 million weekly active users. They recently said that users grew 30%, although we don't know how that figure was calculated. Looking at the change in Twitch viewership between July 2020 and January 2021, this implies weekly active users of about 14 million. Given that monthly active users is greater than weekly active users, I think 22 million monthly active users is a good estimate as of January 2021 for Apex's player base size. Based on February 2021 Twitch viewership data, which I didn't graph here, the estimate of weekly active users would be over 20 million now when looking at the change in Twitch viewers since when EA released weekly active figures in July 2020. So if my 22 million monthly active user estimate as of January was too high, it definitely isn't as of February because of the spike in Twitch viewership. The analysis of the Twitch data using Fortnite as the benchmark implies that Apex averaged about 16 million monthly active users in 2020. We know they generated about 500 million in sales in 2020, so on the monthly basis, that comes out to $2.60 per monthly active user. Given that Twitch viewership probably is a leading indicator of player count, the actual revenue per user might be higher than this, since Apex's Twitch viewership has been growing rapidly recently. I've spent around $60 total on Apex, so about $2.40 per month. I would have spent more if Apex didn't have skill-based matchmaking that ruins my experience playing the game, and if the battle passes weren't basically free if you completed one battle pass and didn't spend coins on anything else. So my own experience lines up with the $2.60 per month estimate. There are a lot of caveats to this analysis, but $2 to $3 per month per monthly active user seems about right. So in conclusion, Apex Legends currently generates over $500 million per year in bookings, but based on Twitch viewership trends, I expect revenues to reach $1 billion in the next few years. Viewership on Twitch for Apex this month is about where Fortnite was at the beginning of 2020. A conservative estimate for monthly active users as of February 2021 is 22 million. Apex Legends generates about $2 to $3 per month per monthly active user. The launch on Switch and mobile this year will greatly increase the addressable market for Apex, which could allow EA and Respawn to increase their investment in Apex Legends, which would be great for players and content creators. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe.